I've been there. Heavy period.
Yeah, makes you wonder what women used to do.
Oh, I've been there.
Huh?
The record album you're using to cover your behind. I've been there.
Yeah, makes you wonder what women used to do.
Oh, I've been there.
Huh?
Your backward waitress apron, taking no chances. I've been there.
Yeah, makes you wonder what women... If you've been there, you get it. Excessive menstrual bleeding for 6 months or more is known as heavy uterine bleeding, or HUB. When you lose more blood, you lose more iron. HUB may lead to another medical condition called iron deficiency anemia, or IDA. Low iron from IDA can disrupt your everyday life with debilitating tiredness, headache, and weakness, but some people may show no symptoms. Learn about iron deficiency anemia and take a quiz to share with your doctor at imayhaveida.com. That's imayhaveida.com. Brought to you by healthywomen.org and Daiichi Sankyo Inc.
Broadcasting live from the Masters Heating and Cooling Studios. This is WKJG 1380 AM, 100.9 FM, Fort Wayne, Indiana. The Fan. This is an exclusive presentation of high school sports on Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. This is the High School Coaches Show. Here's your host, Justin Kenny.
Welcome in, everyone, to the High School Coaches Show. I am Justin Kenny. It is week 6 of the high school football season, and potentially the first week that it's going to feel like fall. Well, the temperatures will rise a little bit tomorrow. Should be a bit of a brisk evening tomorrow for the first time this season, and we're going to talk over the next hour or so about week 6 and maybe look back at week 5 as we're going to kick it off just a few seconds here. Brice, Vance, KPC Media Group will join us as he does each and every week. 6:15, we're talking undefeated football, undefeated Cougs football. Central Noble coach Hayden Kilgore will join us to talk about his team's 5-0 start. Bottom of the hour, Casey Kolkman, Heritage Patriots. And then we'll wrap it up around 6:45. Kurt Tippmann, head coach of the Snider Panthers, fresh off a big win last week at Homestead that really kind of threw things for a loop in the SAC. So we'll talk to Coach Tippmann about that and more to close out the show. But we're going to get it started as we do each and every week here with our friend from KPC Media Group, Mr. Brice Vance. Brice, how are you? Well, that's not Brice. We're going to have to get him on the phone real quick. But we're going to talk about that Leo East Noble game and just how that went, and really a tale of two halves, to be honest. And it was interesting in terms of the way that game went and how it was a 20-point game, and then East Noble comes storming back, ties the game up, and it was just really, really a back-and-forth game as we have Brice on the phone with us. Now, Brice, what's happening?
Not too much, just trying to survive the elements.
You are out in the thick of it, aren't you, this evening?
I mean, just doing what a typical sports reporter does.
And it goes oft underappreciated, doesn't it?
Yes, of course. I can't wait to, check my daily email in the morning and see how many people I have upset after a night of coverage.
Yeah, it's like clockwork, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And many of those are me using fake email addresses, too.
Well, so. I mean, I figured when the same spelling mistakes are made over and over again, I figured it was you.
Oh, you're smarter than you look, Brice. Brice, let's talk about last week. We were both in Kendallville, and I think, all of Kendallville was at East Noble, and a fair amount of Leo Cedarville as well. A 40-32 victory for Leo. It was a back-and-forth game, particularly in that second half. It was a 20-point lead for Leo at the break. East Noble ties it up, and Leo makes the plays late and then gets that defensive stop in the red zone to clinch it. What did we learn last Friday night out of both Leo and East Noble?
I think that both of these offenses are who we thought they were. I mean, they both can dominate up front with their offensive lines. They both can run the ball really effectively when they need to and are up for the challenge. I mean, East Noble's offense, I don't think, was the problem in the first half. I mean, they, did make some mistakes, but I still don't think that the offense was entirely the problem. I mean, they just couldn't stop Leo's rushing attack until they made some adjustments and actually, played with a little bit more toughness. And something that Luke Amstead said after the game is that they just, they needed somebody to punch them in the mouth because, they were coming in, they'd beaten Leo once in the sectional, and they were riding, kind of off that high, and they really haven't been tested yet this season, and they probably would have gotten a challenge against Northwood had that game not been canceled. So I think for both East Noble and Leo, they are who we thought they were, to use the old Dennis Green quote. And it feels like, if these two teams match up once again in the sectional, it's going to go down in a similar fashion. It's either who has the ball last or who is capable of making that last defensive stop as Leo did last Friday.
Brice, were you kind of surprised, especially in that first half, at how easy Leo made it look up front? I know Leo is huge, and that was a big factor going in, but it even caught me off guard with just how dominant of a push they were able to get on East Noble's front.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised because that defensive line is very experienced, very tough, very physical, but it's just that linebacking crew, and Coach Amstead named them after the game, and Damon Bentley and Trevor Conley, that they just hadn't been in a big game like that. And we talked about it before the game. It's just they hadn't experienced, big boy tackling like that, where they had to, fill the gaps and make sure to not get pushed back a couple of yards. Instead, they're the ones doing the pushing. And that finally became the case, in the second half, where they were filling those gaps and actually bringing down Leo rushers in the gaps and not 2, 3, 4, 5 yards beyond it. But I was expecting a little bit more of that defensive line to come up and help them early on, and maybe they'll get used to it by the second half. But it was a little bit of a surprise to see that. And I'll tell you one thing. This defense is probably going to be better for it, just getting a taste of that, and they're probably not going to let somebody push them around the rest of the season.
An East Noble player that was very impressive in the second half, Kanan Carrico was huge, but Xander Brazel showed the poise when he needed to and directed that offense back from a 20-point deficit. While East Noble is still focused on 2021, how excited is the area and really the community of having a quarterback that, now as a sophomore showing himself is very impressive, and he's only going to get better from here.
Yeah, I think it is very impressive, the way he was able just to command that offense and be able to get guys in the right position and get the ball out to, Rowan Zolman, Nick Munson efficiently. They really didn't test Leo downfield that, I thought they should maybe, but I don't think they're just quite there yet with the trust and the accuracy of Brazel. That was, one thing that was evident. He, outside of those screen passes out to the side, he wasn't entirely accurate the whole entire night, specifically on, in that red zone in the last possession where they needed him to make, some big throws, and he was just off the mark. And, and that'll come with experience where he'll be more confident in those situations. But for Knights fans, they should definitely feel comfortable that there is a young quarterback that's getting that experience now and has these weapons and offensive line to, gain necessary experience so that when this offensive line, a lot of them graduate after the season, and so does the receiving core, that he's going to be able to help lead the new guys that do come in on this offense.
Brice Vance, KPC Media Group, joining us here on the High School Coaches Show. Brice, East Noble has to move ahead. They travel to Norwell tomorrow night. It's the 1380 The Fan game of the week here. And then 1 week later, they go to Columbia City. So they have to move forward very quick, turn the page. Has that been the message out of Coach Amstutz this week? Because back-to-back tough road tests coming up.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think that's been the biggest thing, and I expect East Noble to, come in with just a little bit of anger coming in to this game against Norwell, just because they know that they could have had that game against Leo, and that the conference title, could have been in their grasp and was for a fleeting moment when the game was tied. And it feels like that this team is going to be able to, try to do some things that it's been able to do all season long and run the ball against Norwell. I think Norwell's defense is good, not great. They have a a solid pass defense, but I don't think they've had to face very many passing threats so far this season. So, and that's one area I expect East Noble to try and grow, because we know they can run the ball with Cannon Carrico and Nick Munson and Ethan Nichols, but they're still going to try to develop that passing game and try to figure out ways to get the ball to Nick Munson and Rowan Zolman in space. That was one thing that was, evident going forward and going throughout that game, is that what was their plan, trying to get the ball and create some big plays, because we know that those two guys are right up there as some of the top athletes in the area.
Brice, let's take a quick look at the Northeast Corner Conference, and with the simple question is, does anyone care to win the NECC Big School Division as it stands right now?
Well, I think so. But there's just so many teams that are up for it, except for maybe Fairfield. I think they might be the one who's bringing up the end of the pack. And but Garrett's the only one undefeated right now, but they've only played one division game, and they looked pretty darn good in that against Lakeland, forcing 7 turnovers in that game. And I think that they can get past, just about everybody. It's just, can they not turn the ball over themselves? Can they not, have a bad half or a bad quarter like they did against Busco? And they were in that game against Eastside last week, but it got away from them. So we've seen them play good for 24 minutes. It's just all about them putting a full game together. And I think against the competition of the rest of the big division, I think they should be able to do that.
Brice, when you look at Angola, they've been ravaged by injuries at some key positions. When you look at the Hornets, and they'll go to Fairfield this week, they also have Garrett and Eastside still looming. Can the Hornets make a run at that division title?
I think it all does depend if they're healthy. If Andre Tagliaferri is healthy, he's a difference maker. I watched him play against West Noble, and he's definitely a difference maker, has a different, level of speed and quickness that some of these athletes in the rest of the area just don't have in the rest of the big division. There's a couple of other teams that have athletes. Garrett has a couple with, Trey Richards. West Noble has, maybe one or two, but it's not to the level that I think Andre Tagliaferri has had. And Tyler Call, is he going to be healthy? Because he's important on both sides of the ball, mainly at quarterback on offense. So it's all about, can they get healthy? I don't think their injuries are too serious. I expect Tyler Call to be back soon, maybe sooner than Tagliaferri, who has only appeared in one game, and he balled out in that one game. But it's all just, can they be healthy? Because I think there are some other pieces around them, like Finley Hasselman, who went off against Lakeland in a losing effort last week, rushed for over 300 yards. So they have some guys. It's just, can they be healthy?
Brice, before we let you go, in just a couple minutes, we're going to talk to Hayden Kilgore, head coach of your Cougs at 5-0. They go to Lakeland this week. They have Busco, Eastside, Garrett, week 7 through 9. What to expect out of the Cougs down the stretch as they try to hang with Eastside and company in that small school division?
Well, it's just a simple thing I just talked about with Angola. It's health and specifically of one player, and that's Will Hoover. Is how healthy is he? Only played 3 snaps last week, and they really didn't need him against Fremont, but they showed off their other guys. Tyler Schischler, Chase Spencer, Ashton Smith are all capable running backs, but just maybe not to the level of Will Hoover. And I think that if he's healthy and can play, full, maybe 75% of the snaps, that I think that Central Noble will be okay, and enough to, and especially if for Will Hoover is going to be needed in the games against Busco and Eastside for sure, because he can be a difference maker in a field, in a game that Eastside just has maybe a couple of more difference makers. So Central Noble is going to definitely need to be at full strength to compete in both of those games.
All right, buddy. Who's winning the game on the pitch?
I'm actually at a Central Noble West Noble girls soccer game, and the Cougs are up 1-0 right now.
How about that? All right, buddy. Stay dry. Appreciate the time, man. We'll catch up to you next week.
All righty. See you, Justin.
That was Brice Vance of KPC Media Group joining us as he does each and every week here on the High School Coaches Show, breaking down the Northeast 8, breaking down the Northeast Corner Conference, and that big game last week between Leo and East Noble goes Leo's way, a 40-32 victory. the best thing about those two teams in that rivalry is they're in the same sectional. So most likely we will get round 2 next month bounce, whether that is opening round, second round, or a sectional championship game. We're going to take a break. We'll come back. Head coach Hayden Kilgore, 5-0 Central Noble Cougars, will join us. You are listening to the High School Coaches Show on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM.
Scott Graham here from Westwood One with a Thursday night football preview. Primetime action coming up from Houston with the Texans hosting the Carolina Panthers, now led by Sam Darnold at quarterback. The Panthers are coming off a big 26-7 win over the Saints. Head coach Matt Rule says the win was a confidence builder.
Well, I'm sure they're happy we won. I want them to feel like, hey, my hard work and preparation is working. You know, I think that's the message, right? It's not about am I good enough? It's am I doing the right things to win? And then they have to be honest about, hey, this is what I need to do to improve. And so when you win a game, it brings a whole other sort of set of problems.
Houston dropped a game to the Browns last week and saw Tyrod Taylor replaced by rookie Davis Mills due to a hamstring injury. Dave Pash and Mike Golick will have the call of the Panthers at the Texans on Thursday Night Football.
Remember to listen to Westwood One's coverage of the NFL all season long. Right here on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM, Fort Wayne Sports Station.
O'Reilly. Ready for an oil change? Visit the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts to get everything you need. Right now, get 5 quarts of Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil for just $28.95 and earn double O rewards points with your purchase. Protect your engine against sludge and wear with Mobil 1 full synthetic motor oil. On sale now at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hey, frequent heartburn may keep you from running your A game, but it doesn't have to anymore. Join the Prilosec OTC 2-week challenge. Just go to prilosecotc.com. You'll get $3 off to get you started, plus 14 days of tips, tricks, and reminders. Just 2 weeks, zero heartburn. Go to prilosecotc.com and sign up today. Zero heartburn is possible with Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
Hey, it's me, your cell phone. We need to talk about something serious. I know you love me. I know you like using me wherever you are, but I feel like this isn't working out when you're driving. I know you may think that it's possible to focus both on me and the road, but I just don't feel the same way. I think we should spend time away from each other when you're driving. It's for the best.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
The future depends on teachers who are reinventing the classroom and starting their students on journeys that will change the course of history. Shape the future. Teach. Learn more and receive free support at teach.org.
Now back to the High School Coaches Show on Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
Welcome back, everyone. Week 6 edition of the High School Coaches Show here. I'm Justin Kenny. Hey, look who's with us. It's John Graham producing as he waves to the, I don't know, he's waving to the mic, I guess. Sure, why not? He's waving to the mic. So he's in the studio now. We're tag teaming this thing till 7 p.m. Where we'll give away. What do we have tonight, Brice? John, what do we have? Do we have Thursday night football tonight? I think. Thursday night football. I'm trying to read the schedule here from far away. I think we have White Sox Indians game 2. We would join that in progress at the top of the hour, and then we'll give away, of course, Carolina and the Houston Texans. Riveting Thursday night football game tonight, and that's complete sarcasm.
I actually heard that the White Sox, actually won their series.
They won their division today. They got to celebrate game 1 of a doubleheader today. Got to celebrate winning the AL Central. Congratulations to the White Sox. You can hear the second of that doubleheader here after the show. But we got plenty to get to here over the next 40 minutes or so. A little later, Casey Kolkman, Heritage Patriots, will join us. Kurt Tippmann, Snider Panthers, about 6:45. But right now we're going to talk some NECC football and talk some Cougars football with Central Noble head coach, Mr. Hayden Kilgore. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing well. How you doing?
Hey, doing well, and I'm sure it's pretty exciting times in Albion. The football team's 5-0, and everything's right with the world up there.
Yeah, kids are playing hard. It's one of those things where I don't have much to complain about right now. big game on Friday, and we're excited to, play another week.
And I think the biggest question that everybody is wondering is how is Will Hoover doing?
He's good. We limited him last week. He's limited, this week in practice. Truth be told, he could have probably ran the ball for us 30 times last week, but, game plan-wise, didn't really need him. It's one of those things that right now, we'll see how the game unfolds tomorrow. We're planning on giving him some snaps, but, how many, I don't know. Again, I think he could take the ball 30, 40 times, and he'd be just fine.
What does having a guy like Will do for a team like this?
It really just changes the dynamic for us. It's one of those things where, we haven't had to pass the ball a whole lot this season because, when you run the ball for 8-9 yards a carry, you don't really need to, pass it much. Keeps the clock moving. It's one of those things. But, outside of football, he's another kid for us that, he's probably the best leader that I've been around, in my young coaching career. He's a kid that, I can rely on him for about anything. And it's one of those things that, it takes the weight off my shoulder. He's one heck of a football player, but he's an even better kid.
And he's one of those kids, and Coach, you mentioned it, he'd run the ball 30, 35 times if you let him. He also plays defense. I mean, it seems like the kid just has relentless energy and doesn't tire.
He does. He probably has one of the highest motors I've been around as well. He's one of those kids that, coming into the season, what you have in a kid like him, and, he's already exceeded expectations, even for us as a staff. But it's one of those things where, he could play every snap of offense, defense, and special teams. But, for our sake, we try to get him limited on and off. But, all around, he's just a good kid and an even better football player.
Coach, when you looked at year one a year ago and you finished 4-6 and dropped 4 in a row to end the season, and that was a tough 4-game stretch to end the year. But heading into this year after year one and now it being year two under your coaching, did you feel, a start like this was possible?
Yeah, you look at your schedule, before the season. It's one of those things where when you look at it, obviously you want to go undefeated. You never want to say, I want to lose this amount of games. But, for us, it's one of those things where, the beginning half of our schedule, has a lot of opportunities for us to get big wins. The second half of our schedule is our tougher part. We're 5-0 right now, and I told the kids this today. I told them this all week. We could easily end up 5-5. So for us, we're taking it 1 week at a time, and, hopefully, we end up on top in the last couple of weeks.
Coach, I don't want to sell your defense short, and that's a group that's allowing just over 11 points per game. So we talk so much about Will Hoover, but a little about that defensive unit for you guys.
Yeah, I think for us it was one of the things where we returned 9 out of our 11 starters. We got a new defensive coordinator. We have 2 guys that kind of co-do it for us. I think that our kids are kind of taking pride on the defensive side of things. Our kids are flying around to the ball, pursuing. We're causing a lot of turnovers. And I think that, that kind of breathes into our offense a bit. It's one of those things that, it's a lot easier to score points when you only got to go 40 yards than it is 80. And, our kids are taking a lot of pride in that, they're in the top rankings, for 2A. If you look at the top 25 for all of the state of Indiana, our defense is cracking into that. And our kids right now are, looking at those numbers and they're thinking, hey, this is pretty cool. So for our kids, it's one of those things that, they're taking pride in, playing defense. And, it's not flashy at times to, do your job and not have a lot of tackles. But it's one of those things where I think that, our kids are really buying into the system, and I think it's really paying off.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned it, a very veteran group when you look at guys like Logan Hawk and Ashton Dunlap and of course, Hoover and Chase Spencer. I mean, these all are guys, are senior guys, been around and really leading this group. Isaac Clay as well. I mean, a lot of talent on that defensive unit, experienced and veteran group.
Yeah, our senior class, we have 13, 14 seniors, whichever way you want to look at it. We got a kid that, 2 kids actually that play soccer for us that come over, and one of them is our kicker, Aiden Dreibelbis. And, those are guys that wanted to be involved in football this year. So, we kind of worked something out, and, those guys are playing for us. But, it's one of those things where those guys have been playing since they've been sophomores. And, when I got there 2 years ago, and I was coaching the defense, those kids were playing defense for me as sophomores, going and playing games and, getting absolutely blown out. And, even last year looking at our record at 4-6, those guys, they were playing through that. And I think for them, the experience, it's one of those things. I think experience can be, kind of misled at times, but it's one of those things where those guys have learned from their mistakes, and they've kind of taken that experience and they've really brought it into this season, and they're kind of playing with that chip on their shoulder, and they're playing with that little bit of extra juice that they need.
And, Coach, while you don't throw a lot, when you do, you can be effective in it. With Preston Diffendorfer, kind of a big play guy, and he's good at defensive back as well. So another two-way player that's big for you, and just being able to have that passing threat can really open up some things for Will.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like you said, and like I kind of hinted on a little bit ago. We don't do it a lot because we don't need to. Doesn't mean that we don't have the ability to. It's one of those things where, we work it every week, and we work it, probably more than we have in the past. But it's one of those things, we'll probably be faced with a situation here in the next couple of weeks where we're going to have to throw the ball. And, Preston's a kid that for us, he's a very underrated player in my mind. He's a kid that went and, played some 7-on-7 stuff with OPS. And I think that, for a kid like that, he kind of came out of his shell. He's a very quiet kid, but, he's a very good football player, and he's a kid that, I think that, if he gets put on a couple different teams, a team that, doesn't have Will Hoover running the ball as consistently as he is, I think it's a kid that, probably has way better stats than what he does. But, he makes the most of his opportunities, and he's a kid that, I'm just proud of the kid and the progress that he's made. Like I kind of said, he was one of those kids that 2 years ago when I was there coaching defense, he was a kid that, really stood out, and a kid that, I knew was going to be something special someday.
Coach, let's take a look. Tomorrow night you get Lakeland on the road, and, the Lakers fresh off a win at Angola. It's not easy to win there. They also took Churubusco to the brink in week 2. How do you prepare for the Lakers?
Yeah, I think it's probably the best team that we've played, so far this season. They're a very athletic group. It's probably the best offense and defensive line that we've seen all season. So, preparation-wise, this was a big week for us. They're a very well-coached team. Coach O'Shea does a very good job in his second year up there. I can see the progress that they've made, and it's one of those things where, I worry a bit at times, for us, 5-0. Lakeland comes off a huge win against Angola. So it's one of those things, this week has been big, and our kids have prepared really well. But tomorrow, we have a plan, and we got to execute, and, hopefully we come out on top.
Coach, has it been tough to temper the kids? You mentioned, the schedule has kind of been built where you guys can score some wins early, and then it gets challenging. Busco, Eastside, Garrett, week 7 through 9. Have you had to temper that enthusiasm with this group, or is it a veteran enough group to really, truly, in a big cliche, take 1 week at a time?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that after week 3, for us, we come off a big win against Fairfield, a team that beat us twice last year. This was a group of kids that, I think that for us, we wanted that game really bad. As a staff, that was something where, they beat up on us pretty good twice last year. So for us, I went into that week, telling the kids, this is probably one of the bigger games we're going to play this year, and our kids played awesome. Look at the flash forward to week 4. We didn't play extremely well against the Prairie Heights team, and I think that leveled us a bit. It kind of brought us back down to reality, and it's one of those things where, last week we had a great week of practice, and then we went out and we played extremely well. We've had a great week of practice this week, so, I'm hoping it translates over, onto Friday night tomorrow.
All right, buddy. Hey, Coach, appreciate the time, man. Thanks a lot for a few minutes to talk about the Cougs. Good luck tomorrow at Lakeland, and we'll catch up to you down the road.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Take care.
Absolutely. That was Coach Hayden Kilgore of Central Noble. His Cougars 5-0 entering tomorrow night's game at Lakeland. And, Coach mentioned it with his group, and he knows that the schedule has not exactly been daunting through the first 5 weeks of the season. In fact, all 5 opponents have a losing record at this point in the season. West Noble, Woodland, Fairfield, Prairie Heights, and Fremont are all sub-500 teams right now. Lakeland, no different, sitting in 2 and 3. And then it gets immeasurably tougher starting in week 7. Busco, Eastside, and Garrett, the final 3 weeks of the season for Central Noble. Oh, and by the way, they're in that sectional 35 with Eastside and Bishop Lures, so it's not going to be easy in the sectional either. But I think it's a cool story. First time since 2003 that Central Noble has been 5-0. Of course, that group coached by Trevor Tipton went 10-1, lost to Garrett in the sectional semifinals for their first and only loss of the season. So it's exciting up in Albion, despite, saying, well, they really haven't played anybody yet, but success with the boys and girls basketball programs in recent memory, and now the Cougs having, at least through the first 5 weeks of the season, a quite successful year in Hayden Kilgore's that small school division. It comes down to East Side at 5-0, 1-0 in the division. Central Noble 2-0 in the division. They East Side and Central Noble again will meet Week 8 at East Side in what will effectively be the Northeast Corner Conference Small School Division Championship game. And so that will be interesting. While we have so many questions in the big school division and who's going to win that, is it Garrett at Angola, is it Lakeland? Small school division, basically, we know it's going to come down to Central Noble. East Side with potentially Cherubusco, playing the spoiler. But we're going to take a break. We'll talk some ACAC football with Coach Casey Kolkman of the Heritage Patriots. When we come back, it's the High School Coaches Show here on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM.
Oh, according to research, 82% of people remember radio ads. That means that 82% of you listening right now will remember that this is an ad for ZipRecruiter. If you're hiring, 82% of you will recall that ZipRecruiter makes hiring faster and easier. And 82% of you will note that you can try ZipRecruiter for free today. But you have to go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio, like where this ad plays. 82% of you will keep in mind that ZipRecruiter's technology finds qualified people for your job and actively invites them to apply.
Scott, is that you? Who are you talking to?
82% of you will also know that I, live with my mom. But the most important thing to note is that ZipRecruiter works. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Will you be part of the 82% who remember where you can try ZipRecruiter for free? It's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Again, that exclusive link is ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Yes, radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
It doesn't take a brain surgeon to know ticks suck. But what you might not know is that they don't just suck blood way out in the woods. Those creepy little bugs can be anywhere, all year long. And I do mean little. They can be smaller than the head of a pin. But big trouble comes in these small, gross packages. Even a tiny tick can make you super sick. So what's the most important tip to avoid getting bit? Well, duh, pay attention. Remember, ticks can be just about anywhere outdoors. Then spray attention with an EPA-registered insect repellent. Wearing long socks and other protective clothing is a good idea too. When you come back inside, shower. And always remember, check for ticks everywhere. And if you do get a tick bite, don't panic. Tell an adult. And visit ticksuck.org to learn how to remove it properly. Ticks suck, but being outdoors shouldn't. Go to ticksuck.org for more information. Ticksuck.org.
Get the latest knife info from the area's premier knife shop. Follow Blademan's on Facebook and Instagram today and get the latest on what's happening at Blademan's Knife Shop at the shops of Scott Road.
Hello, this is Mark, the owner of Blademan's Knife Shop. I'd like to personally invite you out to the store to check out the area's best selection of quality knives. We carry Benchmade, Hogue, ProTech, Microtech, Emerson knives, Zero Tolerance, and many more. We have the best selection of premium knives anywhere within 100 miles of Fort Wayne. So come in and check out our great selection and have a cup of coffee on me.
Before you experience the world-class quality in store, see fresh inventory updates and limited time specials at the Blademan's Facebook page. Some inventory, unique colors and new styles only stay in stock for a day or two. So be in the know and update your knife collection the smart way. Follow Blademan's today. As always, 10% discount for police and military and on-site sharpening service. Join the community of premium blade buffs at Blademan's Facebook and Instagram today.
I can't think of any way to improve upon the service that I received.
Gibson's Heating and Plumbing is your independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer that is ranked #1 out of nearly 300 dealers nationwide in customer satisfaction. Here's what Gibson's customers are saying.
The office is always courteous. Gibson's service tech is exceptional in his attitude and performance, and is friendly and efficient as he follows up and explains what he's done that day and what needs to be done if there's going to be a follow-up. Kudos to Gibson's for their outstanding service.
Your independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer, Gibson'sHeating.com.
Hey there, what are you doing today? Would whatever it is be easier with faster, more reliable home internet? If you said yes, we have good news. Plus, you could save up to $150. Viasat offers high-speed satellite internet wherever you live, even if cable providers don't go there. So you can get online today and tomorrow. Go to Viasat.com/connect now and save up to $150 on select home plans. That's Viasat.com/connect now. Minimum 24-month service term. Service is not available in all areas. See Viasat.com for additional terms and conditions.
Hey guys, Gronk here, calling a 30-second hair huddle. When it comes to tackling hair loss, Hims has you covered. From clinically proven regrowth treatments to thickening, shampoo, and conditioner. Just go to 4hims.com for a free consultation. Then a licensed medical provider can help you with your game plan. If prescribed, Hims ships directly to your door. Get your hair back in the game with Hims. Try today and get a 90-day money-back guarantee at 4hims.com.
Just go to 4hims.com/huddle. That's 4hims.com/HUDDLE. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
Here's more from the High School Coaches Show on Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
Welcome back, everyone. Week 6 edition of the High School Coaches Show. I am Justin Kenny. He is John Graham here. Till 7 o'clock, we'll give way to White Sox baseball, top of the hour. Following that, it'll be Thursday night football, Carolina and Houston. As it will be an 8:20-ish kickoff. It'll be joined in progress after the White Sox game. Congratulations to the White Sox, wrapping up the AL Central earlier today in the first game of that doubleheader. Thanks to Coach Hayden Kilgore coming on before the break. We're going to talk some ACAC football now with Heritage head coach Casey Kolkman. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Hey, we're living the dream here, Coach, and I'm wondering who put this schedule together for you, because it's absolutely brutal.
Tell me about it, man. We lived through it.
It's Eastside Norwell non-conference, and then you get Woodland, and you get a win, and then you go AC and South Adams. So, what have you learned out of your group? It's been a trying first 5 games, but the schedule has just been brutal.
Well, even the Woodland win's looking better and better.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
So, yeah, and I think the hard part was we felt like we played better against Eastside. We just couldn't handle the Davis kid, and hell, nobody else can either. So, I guess that's too bad. And then Norwell just physically put it to us, and that was a good wake-up call for the team. Then, obviously, we played well against Woodland, ran the ball really well. And South Adams was a heartbreak for us because we lost our quarterback on the first play of the game. He broke his collarbone. Rogers, our running back, wasn't able to go. We tried to go with him, and he was still hurt from the Woodland game. And so, and they beat us, though. And nothing, not taking anything away from South. CC is just woo-wee, buddy. I'm telling you. That's a good football team. And so, no excuses. But it was a tough road there, the first 5 for sure.
Have you found out about your guys having to face adversity?
Well, we found out they're not going anywhere.
That's a good thing, right?
They're either tough and hardworking or they're dumb. But either way, I'll take them. I just mean, we had that talk today about the kids. I said, we realized that, one of the things we do as coaching staff is we identify our errors to the kids because, we drive them so hard sometimes and we tell them how much they screw up sometimes that I think it's good for us to let them know that, we do the same. And so the thing that I said is I think there's been times I haven't been hard enough on you, that we haven't driven you hard enough and pushed you hard enough. And, that's been our mistake. And I said, I realize now that you guys aren't going anywhere. We've lost 4 games, and we've been beat up pretty good in a couple of them, and you're all still sitting here, So I said, so that tells me that you're in. And I should have recognized that earlier and pushed you a little bit harder. So, that's a good thing. All good stuff, just trying to all get better at the same time, I guess,
And, Coach, there's a lot of sophomores on the field, a lot of juniors on the field. Was that a deliberate approach or just kind of how things have developed with this group?
It's how it's developed. We have 13 seniors, but over half of those, it's their first year playing football or their second year playing football. So, we're not a very old club. I mean, we don't have a lot of kids with a lot of miles on them, and we have 30 kids in our sophomore group. So almost half our roster is sophomores and another 14 freshmen. So, 43 of our 65 kids are freshmen and sophomores on our roster. So it's just the way it's played out. And so we're young. We start a lot of youngins, and we only have 9 juniors, and 8 of those guys start. So, yeah, you look at our starting lineup, and it's a lot of young kids and only a couple of seniors.
One of those junior starters is Rylan Whitaker, and one of the more underappreciated guys in the area. But he's been an absolute force for you in the last couple of years. Leads you in tackles through 5 games once again. I mean, this kid is an absolute dog.
Yeah, and I think this year's it's been good for him in the sense that he's had to learn how to deal with people coming after him now. Last year he was a sophomore and nobody knew anything about anybody, and so he was able to fly under the radar and just make tackles because nobody was really – there was a lot of single block situations. Well, this year he's getting a lot of, double teams and a lot of, like what Norwell did. Norwell ran 2 guards at him the whole game. And so, it's a good and a bad thing, right? I mean, he's had to learn, and he's had a few games where he hasn't played so well because he's getting so much attention. But at the same time, it's making him better. Now he's learned how to deal with these things, and so it all bodes well for the future. It's been tough sledding here for him as well, especially considering competition and the fact that he's the guy that their offense is making sure they block every down.
Coach, you get an opportunity this week and, quite frankly, maybe over the final 4 weeks of the season to get some momentum and some positivity, and it starts with Tri-County at home coming up tomorrow night. What do you know about Tri-County, and how do you guys feel about the matchup?
Well, we made a decision coming out of AC because it was another situation where we felt like we got beat up. And it's one of the themes of the team. I'm one of those guys that, I've lost my share of games, and I've won my share. And there's no shame in a loss. There's no shame in failure unless you fail a particular way. And I think in the game of football, the only time that there's shame in failing is when you get physically dominated. At least fight.
Yeah.
We felt like there were a few times maybe where we didn't quite show the fight that we expect to show. You're going to run into good teams. You're going to run into teams that are, they're headed to Lucas Oil. Like last year's South Adams team. You know? And so we made a decision. We're just going to start preparing for people. We don't care who they are. And not that we hadn't been doing that or that wasn't the goal to do it that way, but obviously it hadn't played out that way. And so whether it's AC, South Adams, Tri-County, or Bluffton, we don't care anymore. We're preparing the same way, and we're treating Tri-County like they're the best team in the state of Indiana, and we got to figure out a way to beat them. And I know that sounds cliche, but to be honest with you, that's exactly what we've had to do because we can't afford to think that this team's good or that team's bad. Sure. I mean, that's not good for anybody, and it sure as heck ain't good for teenage boys. So we're just trying to get back to just doing what we do and preparing for everybody, and hopefully tomorrow night we can pick up a victory for our homecoming game,
All right, brother. Hey, man, always a pleasure, man. Appreciate the few minutes here, and get a win tomorrow, all right?
Well, hey, thanks for all you guys do for sports, man. It's pretty cool in my lifetime seeing all the coverage that and all the work that all you guys put in from you guys to Casey to the news stations. It's something that wasn't around when I was a kid playing ball, and it's pretty good for these boys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, buddy. It's a pleasure. All right, man, I'll catch up with you.
Take care, guys.
That was Coach Casey Kolkman, Heritage Patriots, joining us, of course, former Bluffton head coach, former Northside head coach, former Bishop DeWenger defensive coordinator when they won a state championship. So Coach Kolkman has been around now trying to revitalize the Heritage Patriots in his second season with his alma mater. Heritage at 1-4 will take on Tri-County tomorrow night, 0-4 in an 8 o'clock kick in Monroeville. We're going to take a break. We'll come back. Coach Kurt Tippmann, Snider Panthers, will join us as we wrap up the show. You're listening to a Week 6 edition of the High School Coaches Show here on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM.
Teachers shape the future. Right now, in a classroom somewhere in the United States, there's a teacher inspiring a future scientist who'll make preventing pandemics their life's work, sharpening the mind of an aspiring environmentalist who'll help combat climate change, and generating possibilities for a student who'll be the first in their family to graduate college. Explore a career that leaves a legacy you can be proud of. Teach. Learn more and receive free support at teach.org.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Courage. I learned it from my adoptive mom. Hold my hand.
You hold my hand. Learn about adopting a teen from foster care at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Hey, sis. Missed you this morning. Kim told me you weren't feeling well, so I'm just doing a self-care check.
Oh, thank you, friend.
How you doing?
Girl, listen, my energy was so low because I didn't eat breakfast when I got up, so I had to miss virtual yoga with y'all.
Trust me, I understand.
But I'm doing much better now that I've eaten, so I'm back on track.
Great. In that case, let's get some steps in tonight. I'll come over and we can walk around the lake.
Sounds good. Appreciate you being in my business, too. Now, let me get in yours. Did you check your blood pressure today?
I did that and my squats. Okay?
Okay.
High blood pressure is not going to be my friend if I can help it. See you at 6?
Let's get it. See you then.
Now more than ever, it's important that we protect our hearts and the hearts of those we love. Check in on one another and be a part of a healthy blood pressure movement. Rally your squad to take the online pledge at releasethepressure.org. Brought to you by the Release the Pressure Coalition and the Ad Council.
Now back to the High School Coaches Show on Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Justin Kenny. He is John Graham here for about 13 or so more minutes. We'll give way to White Sox baseball at the top of the hour. Hey, tomorrow evening, it'll be the 1380 The Fan 100.9 FM Game of the Week out in Ossian. It will be actually Uniondale. It's Uniondale, not Ossian. If you want to be specific. With Norwell hosting East Noble, that's where you'll find Brett Rump. Shannon Griffith with all the action. East Noble tries to bounce back from that loss last week against Leo, and New Haven trying to make a better showing of itself. It had a shot against Leo earlier this season, lost a 41-9 decision. Don't forget, Norwell beat East Noble a year ago. So we'll see if that can happen again tomorrow night. And Brett Rump and Shannon Griffith will be there with all the action. Kickoff at 7 p.m. Of course, we have a full slate of games in the SAC coming up tomorrow night, including the Wayne Generals taking on the Snider Panthers. The head football coach of the Snider Panthers is Coach Kurt Tippmann. Coach, how are you?
Good. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. Congratulations. You get a win, a big win last week at Homestead. And, the question to outsiders was that week off going to be good or bad for Snider? And it sure looked like it was a good thing.
Well, we had the same question, never experienced something like that. It was Friday at 1 o'clock. We were still thinking we might have a game. And so just unusual. And when we finally found out that we weren't going to play, we went ahead and practiced Friday afternoon and just told the kids we got to make the best of it. We have no choice. We don't have control over it, and that's what we did. And, propelled us into a good week of practice. I mean, everybody was excited going for that game. Everybody knows that's a big game. So it was a good week of practice, and we did play better, and that was the most encouraging part of it.
Yeah, Coach, and I think a lot of people were impressed with that defense after, maybe the first couple games, maybe some missed assignments and some confusion, but it really locked down some really good players of Homestead. I mean, was it something in particular that you guys were able to kind of zero in on and fix, or was it just kind of a collective effort of getting better?
Well, so, we made some changes in our scheme over the course of the off season, and when you have some of that, it takes a while for, everybody to get used to it in game time settings. And, we didn't panic. We didn't play well in games 1 and 2, specifically in the secondary, but in other places too. And we didn't panic and go back to old things. We stuck with what we had planned on doing, and it just takes a little time for the kids. It was their first time doing it. Normally you play a season and you've had, say a senior or a junior has had 2 or 3 years in that scheme learning it as you come up as a freshman and sophomore. And some of the changes that we made, they hadn't had that 2 and 3 year experience in it. And so we knew it was going to take a while. We knew we were going to have some growing pains, and, we didn't want that to happen, but invariably that's going to be the case. And so the kids stayed confident in it, kept believing in it, and I think we're just continually getting better, and I think we saw that Friday.
And Coach, you got some big time guys on that defensive unit as well, and how have they kind of gelled together over the last couple years, changing schemes, but then coming together and facing adversity last year, coming back and really looking very good with each passing week this year. It's a full team effort for sure, but I feel like defensively, we've really seen a lot of growth.
Well, we have 3 guys on this defense that have played. This is their 3rd year starting. And so they bring a wealth of experience. But they also bring, 2 years of experience where we didn't play well defensively. And we, as coaches, accept that. We stated it in the offseason. We have not played good enough on defense the last 2 years. And that's why, we made some changes. But the kids know that too. And that has been on their mind to get that fixed. And so that was, specifically tough in the first couple games when we continued to not play like we had wanted to. But the coaches, the players, they all stuck with it. And, we're leaning on, those guys. And there's really Isaiah Maxwell and Dominic Moon and Markel Keel that bring a wealth of experience. And, we've relied on their words and their, example as we've played here these first 5 games.
Coach, offensively, Tyrese Brown has been tremendous for you. Langston Level has been great as that 1B type running back. And while we focus a lot on the gaudy numbers, it starts up front, and it seems like that offensive line group is really opening some holes and protecting Luke as well back there.
Well, they're all back from last year, essentially, and we took our lumps last year with having some young guys, but they're more experienced, and they're picking things up better, whether it be D-line stunts and linebacker run-throughs. They're fundamentally better. They're, doing things well footwork-wise and the blocking, and that all just allows them to play better and, execute the offense better. DJ is a big anchor part of that. He knows that if he's playing well, our offense is going to play well. And the other guys, Aiden Pels and, Carter Wortman, that have been on that front the whole last year that learned and applied that, as we took the field this season. And I think that's a big part. Everything starts with the offensive line. They are the heart and soul of the offense. And if they're playing well, we can throw it. If they're playing well, we can run it. And, that's been the goal, and it all starts with the big guys up front.
And, Coach, you threw Luke Hoppert out there as a sophomore last year, particularly later in the season. What have you seen out of him as a junior? Have you seen the progression that you expected?
Absolutely. And, we asked a lot of him last year. We've never started a sophomore quarterback in the history of this program other than a game because of an injury or something like that. And Luke took the reins and, again, learned. If I were to describe his experience over a year from now, to now, it's just he's learned. He's learned every day, and he's worked every day. He is a consummate, hard-working kid that loves playing the position and loves learning about the position, and he improves every day. And, again, the passing game takes time. It takes time. It takes reps. It takes, continuity with your receivers. It takes, getting used to guys, bringing pressure and the different ways and coverages that teams play. And you can't substitute just getting experience doing that. And he's applying all of his learning experiences to get better every week. And we're excited for him because, he continues to improve. And he's got some good receivers to throw it to, and we continue to improve. And I think we saw that Friday in the Homestead game. In the game plan we said, you're going to have to make these very specific throws when they give them to us, and we need you to do it. And he did that exactly. Allowed us to stay balanced and take what Homestead was giving us and made the passing game effective and another part of the offensive weapon.
All right, Coach, let's talk tomorrow night real quick. And you get Wayne at home or at Spoler tomorrow evening with a 7 o'clock kickoff. People will gloss over Wayne being 1-4, but they can score points. They have two of the more athletic offensive players around in Sean Collins and Lamarion Nelson. What are some of the things you guys need to be prepared for tomorrow night?
Well, they do. They run the ball very well. They ran the ball very well last year. Coach Haydock always does a great job. He has a very unique style of offense, going all the way back to the Harding days. We hated, game planning for those Harding teams, and that's kind of very similar to what he has right now at Wayne. Very tough to defend. They're big up front. They're huge up front. And, have very talented guys to hand the ball off to. But they've run the ball against everybody they've played, and they've hit, home runs. They run it at you, and then they pop a long one. And they run it at you, and then hit you with a throw. So very capable of an offense. They face it's a physical challenge. You're gonna have to crash into a guy, a big offensive lineman, 45 times, and with your head in the right position, in the right gap for the defense to work. And you can't get bored with that. You can't think of doing too much and trying to get nosy in a different gap, or the ball's going to bounce and pop. And then so it's kind of like facing an option offense. You got to be very disciplined and very gap sound to be successful on defense.
All right, buddy. Hey, Coach, I appreciate the time. I know you're just wrapping up practice and got plenty of other things to do, so appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Good luck tomorrow night against the Generals.
All right, thank you, Justin. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. That was Coach Kurt Tippmann, Snider Panthers, joining us, his team 3-1. And all of a sudden, when you look at 4 games left in the regular season, you look at the team that, other than Bishop Luers, atop the conference at 5-0, which controls its destiny in terms of an SAC championship. The only one other than Bishop Luers is Snider, 3-1. Of course, that one game that was canceled because of Southside, as far as I understand, at some point, if it comes up, that game will be deemed a forfeit win for Snider. So the wins will be the same, 8-1 versus 8-0, or 8-0 versus 7-1 going into that Week 9 game at Luers Field to take on the Knights. If Snider can win out, including beating Luers in Week 9, they will tie Bishop Luers atop the conference. And in the SAC, we do break ties, and it will be a Snider SAC championship. Getting way ahead of ourselves, of course, with 4 weeks to go. But breaking it down simply, Bishop Luers at 5-0. There are 2 teams with 1 loss in the SAC right now. That is Carroll, who lost to Bishop Luers, effectively 2 games behind the Knights, and Snider has not yet played Bishop Luers. So when you're looking at handicapping the SAC race, Bishop Luers in a commanding position. Snider right there, if it wins out, it will win the victory bell as the champion of the Summit Athletic Conference. That's going to do it for us here. Week 6 edition of the High School Coaches Show. Thank you to Coach Kurt Tippmann for joining us, as well as Casey Kolkman, head football coach at Heritage. Hayden Kilgore, coach of the Central Noble Cougars, joined us earlier in the hour, and we started it all off with Brice, Vance of KPC Media Group. Thanks for everybody for joining us. Thanks to everybody for listening. We'll be back next Thursday, 6 o'clock. We'll talk Week 7 of the high school football season. For John Graham, I am Justin Kenny. This has been the High School Coaches Show on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM.
Thanks for listening to this exclusive presentation of 1380 The Fan, the high school coaches show with Justin Kenny on Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Download the podcast at 1380thefan.com or wherever you get podcasts.
It doesn't take a brain surgeon to know ticks suck. But what you might not know is that they don't just suck blood way out in the woods. Those creepy little bugs can be anywhere, all year long. And I do mean little. They can be smaller than the head of a pin. But big trouble comes in these small, gross packages. Even a tiny tick can make you super sick. So what's the most important tip to avoid getting bit? Well, duh, pay attention. Remember, ticks can be just about anywhere outdoors.
Podcasts by Federated Media.